Hello, my name is Ryan Belmore. I'm the owner and publisher of What's Up Noop. It is Tuesday, November 1st. We are just 1 week away from the general election. Many of you may have voted. Many of you may be planning on voting on November 8th. Vote.ri.gov is where your election headquarters, where you can find out where you can early vote. Most chances it is at your board of canvassers at your local city or town hall. You can also see your sample ballot, and as well as all of the candidates on the ballot, as well as all the questions that are on the back of the ballot. And in Middletown and Newport, there is the school regionalization one. Frank Prosnitz joins me. Hey, Frank.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. And we have a full house here today.
Which is great. Important issue. You know, everybody's going to be voting. We all talk about the candidates, but sometimes the questions are easily as important and maybe more important in the long term, this being one of them.
That's it. And we've had him on before. He is Tom Welch, and he is Middletown Town Council Vice President. Tom, how are you?
I'm very good. How about you guys?
I'm doing all right. And Charlie Roberts joins us. And hi, Charlie. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thank you for having us on.
Of course. And we know Tom is the Vice President of Middletown Town Council. Charlie, give us some background about how you got involved in this.
Absolutely. I was looking for an opportunity to devote some time to my community. I feel very strongly that local politics is how you make a difference. The national politics seem to sway us all the time and get most of our attention, but the local politics and local activities and councils are really where you get things done. I saw an ad in the Newport Daily News about a building committee that was starting in Middletown. They're looking for people from the community with construction background experience, architectural experience, engineering experience to join that committee. I was elected by the school committee to join that along with 4 other community members, and we've been hard at work since February of 2021.
Give me a little, either Tom or Charlie, give me a little bit more background on the committee. It is a town committee, and so what's the goal here?
So we followed the RIDE formula for a school building committee. So we report directly to the Middletown Public Schools School Committee, and currently made up of 4 community members. We have some alternates as well in that, and then also people from the school committee as well, and the school administration. Our superintendent of schools is on our committee, as well as our facilities manager and a number of other people as well.
So we'll make no mistake about it. The Middletown Public Schools Building Committee, or at least you two, are here to share why you think voters in Middletown should vote yes on question number 4 and yes on question number 5.
Correct.
Absolutely true.
But let's take it whatever order you want here. Let's go with let me remind voters that question 4 and 5 have to pass in Middletown, and question number 5 has to pass in Newport for all of this to move forward. So if you're a Newport voter watching this, it's important to you. If you're Middletown, it's important, obviously. Let's start with the new school, question number 4.
Yeah, I think, Ryan, it's an easier question, and I acknowledge that for Middletown residents here. Our question number 4, really is, and 5 both combined, it really is a much easier question, I think, to answer and to vote for than it is for the residents of Newport. My message really today, and what I'd like to get across, is really to talk to the voters of Newport and let them know there's a lot of information being put around the city right now. And I stood up last week and I spoke from the heart, and I meant every word I said when I said, we want our kids together in our schools. We want this regionalization, not just because it's an amazing opportunity for taxpayers in both communities, but it's an amazing opportunity for our students as well. And there's a lot of things being said out there that I think really need to be countered, and people need to be informed that, us majority of people in Middletown, we're already regionalized with Newport children, and we enjoy it. We do it all over the community. We have events together. We play on sports teams together. And it really, we're looking at this as an opportunity, not just for Middletown kids, but for Newport kids.
Charlie, one of the things that's been raised by a number of people in Newport, I guess, is they look at regionalization as being true regionalization, meaning, in fact, shared school facilities. Colleen Germain has the superintendent of schools, has floated the idea that possibly down the road a little bit, that may be a possibility, given that the middle school in Newport may become obsolete. They may be able to take the what will be a new high school in Middletown, the new Rogers, and maybe something happens where one becomes a middle school, one becomes a high school. Is that just fantasy, or is that even a possibility down the road?
The beautiful thing about this, if it passes, is that'll be decided by the regional school committee. I can tell you that I personally, as a voter, was not for consolidation of the high school back in 2014. And that's not because I didn't want our kids together. At the time, my older kids were best friends and sometimes dating Newport kids. Like, we were doing all kinds of things together with Newport kids. We love the Newport community. It's more that I'm not an education expert. I'm a facilities construction person, so I look to the experts. And what I found, majority of experts around this country agree on one thing, that the ideal size for a high school is 600 to 900 students. And I felt that consolidating a high school, number one, of that size, where we, have over 600 students in each school, kids would get lost. It would be too big. It's not the ideal learning environment for high schoolers. And then second of all, I will add that, what about the real estate? Like, where can we really fit a full consolidated high school? But to answer your question, Frank, is we are absolutely open. There's going to be a lot of things happening over the years. We want to be on board with coming up with a new plan for Thompson, eventually for universal pre-K, which is out there as well. And there's talk of the Navy base expanding, and who knows, we may need a third high school. But either way, this is an amazing opportunity for the kids, really, more than anything.
Go ahead, Tom.
So I'll just weigh in here too. One of the things that I find is very distractive in this whole conversation is the word regionalization. There's a lot of people saying that this is not regionalization, that it's unification, or it's not unification. And to me, that's all semantics. As far as I'm concerned, the people with the money here, the people that are offering this reimbursement, is the State Department of Education. And they came up with the idea of calling this regionalization. So it is combining of forces. Administratively now, down the road, anybody could guess where we can go. But I've said this before, where I went to Middletown High School, there were 1,200 kids in the school. Currently, as we talked about, there's a little more than 600, right around 650 in both schools. So as the numbers drop off that severely, we cannot offer the types of courses in either school for the kids to continue to move ahead. So this is a perfect opportunity to get together, combine forces, and move ahead. As far as futuristically, I mean, you can make up all scenarios. People ask, well, can you put both high schools into the high school, middle school now? I'm sure you could. Could Rogers be the middle school? Could it be the other way around? I can't look that far in the future, but is it possible? The first thing we got to do is get together at this level and then move ahead.
So just, I understand all of that. So what do you say to those people who are stuck on that issue, and how do you convince them, in fact, that that's something that can be addressed later on?
If we don't do anything right now, we go into our corners and we just keep plugging ahead the way we've been. The past is the past. Here we are with a great opportunity with state money to bring all of our Rogers is already there. Hell's already there. They're on track. We catch up. We come to the table with the same amount of, brand new facilities, and we work off each other and we help each other get better. If we don't do this, and then the opportunity is endless after that. We can just keep talking. and it's local people making these decisions. We'll have one school committee, one finance committee made up of people from the administrations or teachers or whatever they end up being that are in the mix. That, I don't see the downside here at all.
Charlie and Tom, let's try to bring some people over to your side in Newport. The unsure voter or the voter who hasn't made their decision, maybe they're hearing all the people who's saying this has been rushed. Maybe they're hearing that they want to see more, they want to know more, that educational benefits, opportunities haven't been outlaid. What do you tell those people? How do you bring them over?
Well, I think last week we held a joint school committee meeting between both communities and superintendents from both schools who are in a very difficult situation when you really look at it. They are superintendents of each of their schools, but they got together and they came up with just a list of probably 20 to 30 items of how this will benefit the students. More opportunities in things like biomed, expansion of some of the CTE programs in both schools where we won't have to pay each other's town to send a kid to Middletown for our biomed program. A kid from Newport can now go there after this passes and go there for free instead of the town having to pay the $18,000 per student to do that. And that's just the start of the opportunities. I think that's what it gets missed in this whole thing. One of the frustrating things for me has been the kids get lost in this. They like, what do the kids want and what is best for the kids? Those are two difficult things. We can't let the kids decide everything, right? We as adults need to make some decisions for them. And I, again, it's easier for me as a Middletown resident. You guys in Newport have done a very good job. You've put a brand new school into construction. You have an addition on to your elementary school that's going along. This is much easier decision for us in Middletown. But what is best for the kids? And I think this opens up opportunities for both communities to share resources and offer more to our children in both communities.
So how do you, you mentioned the list of 20 to 30 things. How do you convey that to people in general? How do you simplify the message to particularly to maybe Newport voters, but also to Middletown voters that says this is better for the community because, and not involving the financial, but involving the educational? How do you do that succinctly so that in fact people understand it and they can easily relate to it?
Well, Frank, one of the things I would say to that is people continually want to separate education from finance. But unfortunately, it's pretty simple. In order to anything that the schools need or want requires dollars. Both of our communities have struggled funding our schools significant, with enough money that they want in order to move ahead. This of us getting together, never mind, like Charlie was just saying, that we can, work off each other's strong points as far as curriculum. This allows all the efficient money to add more money to the school committee so that we can have more programs, buy more equipment, hire more teachers. All those things that they go together. You can't separate them. And teachers that say, what about the teachers? What are we going to do? Well, at this juncture, everybody is in their own school. The same kids are in the school. You need the same number of teachers, same number of classrooms. So there's not this big, unknown there. Is there going to be some fringe, and this example I always use, there's seven kids in Rogers that want to take French 2, and there's 6 kids in Middletown. Well, separately, neither of us will be able to hire a teacher to provide that class, but collaboratively we can. So that bumps the kids ahead. It's not as hard as people are trying to make it.
I wonder what, Charlie or Tom, what was your reaction when the teachers union in Newport came out against this?
It's not surprising, I guess. I think, talking to the teachers in both communities, I can understand why they could have some uneasy feelings about this. I'm not sure what the actual vote was with the teachers union. I know it was stated last week by the TAN representative that, overwhelmingly they do not support regionalization now, but they may support it in the future. And that's understandable. And they have every right to feel that way. Okay. But again, do they have the children in mind first? Are they really looking at, the opportunities that can come out of this for the kids? Now, I'll say that, but then I'll also say, to me, if I was a teacher, I would think this would add stability to my job. Every year, our communities go through layoff rounds, right? We have to list the layoffs, and sometimes they get asked to come back. But to me, this adds stability for all teachers in both communities. But they have the right to come out and say that they're against it. The teachers in Middletown have chosen to stay neutral. Both superintendents from both schools have stayed neutral on this, and that's their absolute right. So I respect their opinion. I don't agree with it, but I respect it.
So one of the things that's confusing, or it seems to be, when I keep trying to understand the finances, and I'll put in quotes the savings, I think 47 million to Middletown, 46 million to Newport, and every time I throw up some kind of a scenario, I get something back as well. That's not exactly it. At least what I understand, this is savings in debt over a period of 20 or 25 years. That money becomes available in increments over that period of time. And then it's up to the individual councils from each community, or maybe this finance committee, to determine what happens to that money. And it's my understanding that Newport and Middletown have already voted that they want to at least have a portion of that money go back into the schools. Am I close?
Very much so. You're right on the money. The problem with defining that is that you can't, as a council sitting now, tell the next council what to do. So we have shown the initiative, and we all agree that you can't just take all that money and pay down the loan for the schools, that it goes back into the schools. Exactly how much, we can't say, which I know doesn't help, but the thought is there. But on the other side is that, let's say, for example, you've heard the number, maybe you haven't, that in Middletown schools, I think it's 2021, $700,000, right, was spent on utilities, so oil, water, electric. New schools, obviously, and less schools for us will be more efficient. The efficiencies then create more money in your budget. It is against state law for the school budget to go backwards. So whatever they got this year, they at least get next year. So if you were to save money on utilities because you have new buildings, there's automatically more money in your budget. So that's where some of the money comes. And then there's a kind of a third component is the busing that you probably heard about. So that is not in the 80.5% number of reimbursement. It is transportation. So for example, in Middletown, and Newport's very close, to a little bit more, it's $2.5 million a year. Currently, the state would pick up half of that. So as a combined school committee or school finance committee, the state would reimburse $2.5 million, again, to the schools, not to the town and municipality, to the schools. I don't know if that helps.
Somewhat. I think one of the things, I think there are people out there who think that somebody's going to write a check to Middletown for 47 million and a check to Newport for 46 million, and not recognizing that we're talking about a 20-25 year period.
Yes, the state is not going to reimburse us as soon as we sign on the dotted line. They reimburse at the same rate that we pay back the loan. So if at the end of this year we owed $100, the state would give us 80 of it, we would pay 10. It rides out the whole 20 years. You don't get a lump sum. Absolutely not.
Which is a pretty good deal, because if the state pays 80, you pay 10. I don't know where the other 10 comes from for the $100. I don't know. That's.
Well, I'm sorry if I said the numbers.
I'm only kidding.
Okay. Yeah.
It's my sense of humor.
Yeah. Okay.
Charlie or Tom, help. You mentioned Charlie had mentioned earlier in the interview that some of the things out there were getting misconstrued. Go over some of the facts. Let's talk about some of the facts that maybe can't be disputed. What people should keep in mind while they go to vote over the next week.
Yeah, I think, Ryan, I'd like to start with, recently this weekend, there's been a number of door hangers put on Newport doors, and I'd like to kind of debunk the three of the main things that they talked about, which is the first is regionalization. This is regionalization. We are combining districts, and yes, right now we have buildings in each community, but that's not to say in the future that students wouldn't go to either one. So that's one thing there. Tax breaks for Newport residents. This brings back at least $46 million just in the bond on Rogers High School and in the Pell Edition. Immediately tax money coming back. And as Tom said, there has been, the city leaders, the third item there was city leaders have refused to guarantee any potential savings go back to the schools. Well, I've attended 2 meetings just in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and city officials from Newport have pledged that they will, in fact, put that money back into the schools. Now, as Tom pointed out as well, a new council can be elected, but that's up to the people then to hold their elected officials accountable as well. I think the money's there. It's an amazing opportunity for both communities, and I just – I want to make sure that people understand the truth. And the truth is what RIDE has presented to us and what the regional committee has presented as well.
Tom, anything you wanted to add there? I want to make sure we don't skip over you.
No, I don't think so, Charlie. That was very good.
All three.
Frank, 1 second. I've Keith asked the question,
Sure.
our good pal, and I'm going to put him up because he has a beautiful looking dog. You might not know the answer to this question because it might be the future new school committee that would have this. But will Newport students and residents have the choice to attend new middle and or high schools in Middletown?
Yeah, I think you answered it partially there, Ryan. The regional school committee will make those decisions. And again, those will be elected equally by each town. Plus, just so everyone knows how the governance works, if there's 3 Middletown elected officials on the regional school committee and then 3 from Newport, and then the highest vote getter from either community is the 7th. Well, the regional joint finance committee, then whatever community has the 4 folks on that committee will then have the 4th on the finance committee. So that it's really a nice balance there. So Keith, I think to really truly answer your question, that it's going to be up to the committee. I think what you'd find now is it's happening now already. We have kids that go back and forth right now in some of the CTE programs. And I think this expands it even further. It'll make it easier for kids. Like Tom said earlier, there may be a class in Newport that Middletown kids want to attend. Well, they'll be able to do that.
What's the relationship, or what will be the relationship between the regionalized finance committee and the finances of each town, the finance departments of each town?
So as far as that is concerned, regionalization says that each student in every community will be assigned a dollar value, and the town or city is responsible for that per pupil money to be sent over to the regional finance committee. Or the school committee for them to make their budget. And one of the other things that is important to point out is if there is a federal grant money that goes along with a certain group of students, whether they be in Middletown or Newport, that money is still allocated to that town. Or so if I'm a Navy brat and I live in Middletown and the Navy, United States Navy says that I get a stipend because I'm a child of a naval person, then that money, wherever that kid lives, that's where the money goes. So that would just help the municipality. It doesn't go away because of regionalization, and it doesn't get mixed in. It stays with the community.
Let me stay on finances for a second. The impact of taxes because of the school construction on each community. And what I and going deeper a little bit into that is are the residents better off in terms of tax rate from a if this passes, which increases the amount of state funding, or if this doesn't pass, which in the
So,
case of Middletown means nothing gets built, but in the case of Newport, they're still on the hook for the cost of the schools.
so for Newport, it is a simple equation. They regionalize with Middletown, Newport get together, they get an additional $46 million on top of what they're already getting at 52% for Rogers and the Pell Edition. So that's easy, 46 million. In Middletown's case, if looking at it purely from the taxpayer standpoint, if we do not move here, and this is the scenario that we talked about, previous to this coming from RIDE that we could regionalize and realize these reimbursements, we're looking at a $90 million fix, which was going to address most of the trouble at the high school and the middle school, but was going to do virtually nothing to the two elementary schools. And the reason that we picked $90 million was because from a bonding standpoint from the town, if we had to shoulder all of that burden, that was about as much as we were comfortable to take out without reducing our bond rating. So for the taxpayer, let's say we ride that 90 million for 20 years. Well, we've done nothing to the two elementary schools, which are older than the high school and the middle school. So we're limping them along until we can probably take out at that time $100 million to try to address them. Problem there is it costs you twice as much, and we're dumping all this money into schools that are over 60 years old. So it's, again, a no-brainer either way.
With no brainers, I'm just trying to write down and summarize. Pretty much you both would agree that voting to approve question 4 and 5 in Middletown and question 5 in Newport is the best educational opportunity for all students in Middletown and Newport, and the best financial opportunity for voters in Middletown and Newport.
Absolutely.
Correct.
I'm just trying to include both words in there, educational
Yeah.
and finance, because I know that's where a lot of stuff happens.
Well,
Charlie,
and Ryan, when you really think about it, it's the largest line item in town budgets is their schools. So, like Tom said earlier, it's tough not to separate education from finances. It really is.
Charlie, one thing you want everybody to keep in mind as they head to the ballot.
I want, what I would really like is for people to truly understand the facts that are out there. There's, again, we have not had a lot of time. We're trying. People have been really working hard to answer a lot of questions. RIDE's been incredibly supportive throughout this process. They want to show this as an example, I think, across the state, really. And they've been really great to work with. But, what I really want the voters to think about first and foremost is the kids. That, to me, I can't see how this is not good for the kids in both communities. I coach sports. I'm a assistant coach at the Gaudet middle school for the boys soccer team. A few weeks ago, Thompson played at Gaudet, and it was a great game. Thompson beat us 3-1. It was a tough loss for us in Middletown. But after the game, I looked over, and first of all, we shared a great experience together. We honored the 8th graders from both communities. And afterwards, I looked over, and the kids were getting together. They were eating pizza together because they all play on club-level soccer together. They all go to community activities together. I think if people really think about it, we are already regionalized as a community, and our kids are already doing things together all the time. And I just think we need to do this for them. I'm not a politician, but I'm telling you, I support this 100%. And I would talk to anybody if they had questions about whether or not to vote yes on this.
Tom, how about you?
Yep.
I just think Charlie's very good at this, and I would vote for Charlie, even though he's not a politician. So I think, to me, I still get very frustrated about the word regionalization. And I just want everybody to understand it is not unification, but that's okay. We went that route, didn't work out. Now here we are, and Charlie just gave you a whole bunch of examples of how we do it on a lesser level. Now we're going to make it a little bit more formal, and we're going to recoup some benefits by doing it. And what happens down the road? No idea. But once we figure it out now and start working together even more, the sky's the limit. So just look to the future. And I agree. Sports, scouts, fire department, doesn't matter. The adults are always the problem. The kids are not the issue.
Tom, is there another word, if you could have put your own words on the ballot, is there another word you would have used besides regional?
Cooperative effort. I don't know.
Yeah, just
team. How about a team? How about a local team? I don't know.
Yeah.
Lots of words you could use, collaborative, whatever.
Yes.
Lots of things. I wonder how you get this message across to that 83-year-old resident who has a difficult time maybe comprehending the finances of this thing. They don't have any kids in school anymore. It doesn't matter to them. They're afraid that their taxes are going to go up. Why should they vote for this?
So that's my mom. My mom lives right next door, exactly in that same boat. And I will say this, that your taxes are going to go up either way, because we can either pay for the schools ourselves for a very long time, a lot more money, or we can take advantage of this state money that's there. And for my mother, one of the things you can understand is you have spent your entire life paying state and federal taxes. Well, this is state money. This is our money. Everybody's money is at the state. But for once, Middletown, Newport, Aquidneck Island can benefit hugely at getting 80% of it back. So it's not free money. It's not magical, but you've already paid into this. So make it worthwhile.
Charlie, anything else to add or anything else that we missed?
I just would, invite people to go to the Middletown-Newport.us website that you put up there earlier, Ryan. I appreciate that. And don't be afraid to question it. There's nothing wrong with that. But, really, honestly, I'm just asking people to put the kids first this time. Let's get away from all this divisive politics that's taking over this country. And when you really narrow this down and you vote for the kids, I don't see how you can vote against this.
Tom, anything that we missed besides Charlie Roberts 2024?
John, you can have my seat. I think one of the things that gets me too is the what if. Everybody is very good at coming up with all sorts of scenarios about what if this happens, what about, and nobody can possibly know all those answers. One of the things I would like people to do is be optimistic, be a glass half full person. Look at this as an opportunity to learn from all of our collective mistakes along the way, start fresh, clean the slate, get more money to do it with, and get our kids together. I think it's terribly exciting, and I really hope it passes.
All right. Well, Tom, Charlie, thank you for joining us and for coming on. Middletown-Newport.us. Lots of information, contact information, all sorts of stuff on there. So hope people go to it to find out more information. We appreciate both of you taking the time. Tom, for you twice, and Charlie for you once, but we'll be seeing you in 2 years.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. And that is Charlie Roberts as well as Tom Welch. And we appreciate them taking the time to chat with us today. Frank, do you know any more info?
The only thing that just put it in perspective, education, as much as anything else, is on the ballot in Rhode Island. $1.4 billion in school projects from one end of the state to the other. From Westerly at $50 million, in Pawtucket, a new high school on the ballot for the McCoy Stadium site. Warwick, 2 high schools on the ballot. Hundreds of millions of dollars in those communities. It's voters, and they're going to vote different ways. There's a lot of opposition in Warwick. We'll see what happens with that one. Westerly has twice turned it down. Looks like the momentum is on the side of approval of that one, but quite a ballot for education. And that's going to tell us not only about what happens in Middletown and in Newport, but really where the mindset is for people from one end of the state to the other.
That's it. I will make a point that we did speak to the group that is opposing question number 5, building Newport's future. We spoke to them a couple weeks ago. That video and podcast is also available on whatsupnewport.com. Feel free to listen and watch both, share, listen and watch both. Go to vote.ri.gov and see what the actual language says on the back of your ballot in Newport and Middletown. And this is one where you're going to have to put your blinders on and try to ignore all the stuff that's getting thrown back and forth and just try to look ahead at the facts.
Look to the future.
That's
Vote
it.
for the future.
That's it, Mr. Prosnitz. I appreciate you taking the time, and we will chat with you. One more to go. We have Representative Lauren Carson on Thursday, and we will talk to her about her campaign.
And when do we talk? And when do we talk to her opponent?
I was gonna come up with Lauren does not have an opponent. If
2 years.
That's it. All right, go Patriots. I'll see you later.
Go Giants.
On behalf of all of us here at What's Up Newport, I want to thank Charlie and Tom for joining us. If you missed any of this, if you want to share it, if you want to watch it again, listen to it, download it, all available on whatsupnewport.com, as well as all of our interviews with the candidates. Thanks for watching.